Hello friendos and bendos, it's me Z, and if there's one character that DC Comics knocked it out of the park with, it's Jaime Reyes, the third Blue Beetle. He has an amazing power set, awesome design, great lore, and a very enjoyable personality. It's no wonder that he's one of DC's most popular recent characters, getting constant solo runs, tons of adaptations, and even his own solo live-action movie. And with all this in mind, you really gotta ask the question, if Blue Beetle is so good, why is there no Blue Beetle 2? Wait, who the fuck is that? Leading up to the release of the 2023 Blue Beetle movie, writer Josh Trujillo and artist Adrian Gutierrez were given the reins to a Blue Beetle miniseries that eventually became an ongoing. Predictably, this book had a lot of movie synergy, with Jaime moving to Palmera City and butting heads with Victoria Cord, Ted Cord's sister, both being elements introduced in the film. However, while this book was made for synergy, it would be very wrong to say that's all it brought. In fact, this book has given us some of the most significant Blue Beetle lore and status quo changes in a very long time. This book introduces us to the Horizon, a faction of the Reach that's disbanded from them and is now against their tyrannical regime. If you're not familiar with Blue Beetle lore, the Reach is an evil alien species that sends technology known as scarabs to different planets. These scarabs take hosts, turning them into obedient soldiers that help the Reach take over the planets. The scarab that got sent to Earth, Kajida, was damaged, and that's why Jaime isn't a slave to the Reach. In my opinion, this run's introduction of the Horizon is a great addition to Blue Beetle. I've never been a fan of purely evil alien species, so I like things like this that add complexity and showcase that not everybody in the Reach is actually a terrible person. That being said, they still do some weird shit, including sending their own scarabs to Earth in order to help combat the Reach if they ever appear again. And that leads us to the biggest part of this book. Not the movie stuff, not the Horizon, new Beetles. And I'm a little mixed on them. You see, in concept they're amazing, but in execution, well, let's go over them first. First up we have Dynastis, the Yellow Beetle, real name Giomara Irazo. She's a schoolteacher from El Salvador whose scarab bonded to her stomach. Next up we have Natita, the Green Beetle, real name Roma Lopez, a musician from Bloodhaven whose scarab bonded to her arm. The two of them initially fight Jaime, under the impression that he's working for the Reach, but after learning that he's actually a good guy, they team up and form Team Beetle. And I love this team. I love the addition of these two to Jaime's supporting cast. Which is why it's pretty unfortunate that the book doesn't do a very good job of putting focus on them. The book has a lot of different plot lines, from Jaime's post-graduation anxiety, to the Horizon acclimating to living on Earth, to Victoria Cord's descent into madness. It all makes it feel very unfocused, and leaves certain individual characters to the wayside. Dynastis is the first of the new Beetles we meet, and I love her introduction, the mystery of who's behind the mask and what their deal is. And when we meet Giomara, the woman behind the mask, we wonder just how much this affects her, how much the scarab upending her life has changed her feelings and attitudes, but we just don't get that. She's relegated to the muscle of the team, and Paco's love interest. The biggest nail in the coffin is her powers, which seemingly are just the armor and strength. No weapons or anything else. It makes it so that even the fights with her aren't that interesting. Natita, on the other hand, is really interesting. We learn that the scarab, in her eyes, has completely ruined her life, and the second she can, she gets it removed, causing a rift between her and the rest of the team. She also has really cool powers, being a sort of plastic man beetle, having stretchy limbs and being able to grow super big. It's awesome. Which is why it's a shame that she's kicked off of the book at issue 8, and we never see her again. The book wastes two characters by having one of them not do anything and the other fuck off. It's really sad. And while it's pretty much guaranteed that Natita would have returned if the book hadn't gotten cancelled, we can only really speculate if she would have got the attention she needed. So all that's left is an unfinished character arc. Now on the upside, I think it's only a matter of when, not if, these characters will return. Like I said before, Blue Beetle is insanely popular, so he'll definitely get a solo series again sometime in the future, and they'll have to return. Probably. I think. And that's the same deal with this guy, the Blood Scarab. The Blood Scarab is the ancient Egyptian pharaoh Khafre, the original wielder of Kajida. After Khafre died, he became a scarab, and in the present day, he possesses Javier Basualdo, an explorer who uncovered his tomb, and uses him as a vessel to enact revenge against Blue Beetle. Blood Scarab is another really cool character who unfortunately kind of gets wasted. He's set up as Jaime's new Dark Mirror, gets defeated in the first arc, and then disappears until the final issue when it's teased that he may return. Whoop-de-doo. He's just another example of a really awesome design and concept that falls flat because of lack of focus. And it really makes me wonder, why? Why were these guys introduced if they weren't going to get the focus they needed? This book can be good. There are parts of it that I really like, but there's other parts of it that make me want to slam my head against the wall and just say, hey, focus on what you're doing now, don't add on this new shit when you already got this current shit to deal with. And I think it's a tokusatsu of it all. The book is clearly trying to replicate that genre. New colored beetles, awesome giant robots, super cool new forms. It's very Power Rangers, very Kamen Rider, but does it actually do what those things do, or is it just trying to look like them? Is the book's obsession with simply adding on more and more reminiscent elements actually diluting its potential? Well, I brought on a much bigger Toku fan than me to talk about it.
Aesthetics versus authentic. Well, I have worked with some of the people who use these sort of aesthetics, buy Radiant Black, buy Radiant Black, buy Radiant Black. There's been a concerning trend within the past decade or so regarding the usage of tokusatsu-inspired imagery within Western superhero comics. Mainly a sort of stereotyping and generic homage to series like Saban's Power Rangers, I have to make the Saban distinction, or broadly Super Sentai, but there are series out right now that use that imagery effectively for their own stories. Ultra Mega, Family Force 5, Rogue Sun, I guess. But why do these books work as homages and general callbacks to tokusatsu, while others come off as generic and often fail at understanding what they try to ape? Let me ask you a simple follow-up question. What is tokusatsu? You can say, oh, it's transforming heroes who do poses and shout special moves, but that's a skin-deep analysis of the material. In short, tokusatsu is a subgenre of filmmaking that's focused specifically on practical special effects work, which is fairly broad in its definition, but makes sense when you break down stuff like Godzilla being tokusatsu, and that's from the 50s. Ultraman, one of the first toku superheroes that took the country of Japan and later the world by storm, came out in the 60s. Kamen Rider and the like only came about after Shotaro Ishinomori was contracted to help make a live-action show, and he was originally going to use his manga Skullman as the basis, and that was in 1971. There's a whole history to this subgenre that you need to take into account when doing a homage to tokusatsu. And for the most part, series that do homage toku simply take the image of Toei's superhero time block and plaster it onto Western superhero tropes. And sure, Western superheroes have 100% influenced the creation of Eastern superheroes given the proliferation of their tropes and international success, but the execution of those tropes and the permutations of the genre are different than that of the big two. How stuff like character writing and general focuses change per season or film for the major franchises, and the delivery of expected toku tropes varies because of factors regarding filming or actors. Stuff like Ultra Mega and Family Force 5 use the imagery of Ultraman and Super Sentai to tell their own stories, but build on the fact that they are homages for said stories. It isn't just a vague Power Ranger parody because they like the designs, they go out of their way to emphasize the importance of those tropes previously established by their forebearers, going out of their way to subvert tropes or embrace them for a unique story, not just something that screams a super attack and ends in an explosion. Blue Beetle can easily be retrofitted into this concept. The idea of Jaime's origin and how he gets his powers is very Kamen Rider in its delivery, using the powers of a fascist enemy organization against them to preserve human life, all with a bug-themed mask that hides their tears. It's just the idea of having multiple colored beetles without any sort of synergy like a Sentai, or any sort of dueling motivations that coincide with one another like your average Heisei season of Rider, that leaves a lot to be desired. It's the aesthetic of tokusatsu when the delivery is all Western comic book influence, all big two superhero tropes, just with the occasional pose or anime power-up. Now, I'm not saying you need to watch this many shows and do this and that to be a proper homage to toku, but the aesthetics of tokusatsu are often appropriated for solely design work and not in terms of story or character depth that's often delivered from what many consider to be bargain bin superhero stories. Because these stories, like many stories within the superhero subgenre, have artistic merit, regardless of their financial incentive. It's the passion for the material that matters most, understanding the subgenre, and in turn how to twist it, versus simply giving me Batman, but he's pretending he's Gavan. Aesthetics versus authentic.
So that's the lowdown on Blue Beetle by Trujillo and Gutierrez. It's not bad by any means, and it's very fun at some points, but it struggles with finding its footing, and overall feels more style over substance. I do hope though that all the new characters come back, not just the Scarabs, but also Jaime's new girlfriend Uli, Victoria Cord, and even his gay aunts. I love them so much. Alright, that's been it for me, Z, and a very big thank you for the Mangalog for collabing with me on this video. Check him out, or you probably came from him, because I'm so much smaller, but anyway, thank you so much, and I'll see you in Palmera City. Bye.